Ignition sequence starts. 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, 0. Liftoff. We have a liftoff.
Hey everybody, this is the Digital Asset Investor, and as I am recording this, I just happened to turn over and look at CNBC, and once again, almost every freaking week, Anthony Pompliano is on CNBC, and nobody's asking him any hard questions, and he's touting the whole Bitcoin line once again. I have never been more convinced that this guy was decided upon as a face man when they first began this whole thing by whoever the powers that be are, that are the Bitcoin maxis or whatever, and that they are literally, he's the guy that they chose to just trot out their young face, could be the face of Bitcoin and all that. It is literally a marketing program you're watching on CNBC. The guy never gets challenged. They'll never send a Charles Hoskinson or someone on there to say, hey, wait a minute, Bitcoin doesn't do X, Y, and Z, and you know it doesn't, and you're out here talking about it all the time as if it's the end-all be-all, and you know it's not. Nobody ever comes out and challenges him on what's wrong with Bitcoin, ever. Nobody. So there's obviously, CNBC is owned by corporations, and somebody has an incentive out there to keep that whole storyline going. Okay, this video, I'm going to show you some things that might be some aha moments. Okay, so strap in. And yesterday, I was telling you about my little Alice Bob theory. And I'll show you that in a minute. And I'll give you all the caveats here. This may be nothing more than just everybody in crypto at some point saw Ripple's example of Alice and Bob, but I sure do. And then maybe it just became a thing in crypto, but it sure is all over the place. And I'm going to show you another place that it pops up in that might blow your mind. Okay. First, Goldman Sachs predicts explosion. This XRP crypto. Well, if Goldman Sachs predicts explosion in use of digital currencies, Goldman can custody crypto assets but can't principal them, and is in talks with regulators and central banks about how banks should be regulated when dealing with digital money. If they're in talks, that means it's already been decided, folks, by the way. That's their code. Now, Jeremy Hogan weighed in yesterday on the Ripple SEC lawsuit, and he gave us some new insights that are really good, in my opinion. And let me say this, folks. You can literally see this Ripple lawsuit. The writing to me is on the wall. You can see everything that's going on out there. You can see how this is on a conveyor belt to a reasonable end and a reasonable solution. You couldn't pry my XRP out of my hands if it was in my hands. You couldn't do it. Watch this.
Might have been the sale of a security, but the XRP Ripple sold in 2018 might not have been the sale of a security. It depends on whether Ripple was the driver of XRP value at the time of the sale. And this is the key for what I'm about to tell you in the second half of this video. But listen, don't take it from me. Here's the SEC Commissioner Pierce saying the same thing in a much more intelligent way.
So we tend, as the SEC, to talk about the token itself as being a security. And that's really a shorthand, because what the question really is so like a stock or a bond is a security, but a securities offering can include an investment contract, which is what Howie's all about. And so it's not that the thing itself, the Howie case, for example, was about orange groves. Mm-hmm. It's not that the orange groves themselves or the orange trees or the oranges were a security. What we were saying is the way that you sold those pieces of the orange grove, it was a securities offering because it was an investment of money. You were...
Just in case you didn't pick up on it, what she just said is that XRP, it's not that XRP is a security. We're just arguing over what it was back then, and that's what we're going after them for. That's what she just said without saying it.
for profits based solely on the efforts of someone else. That's what a securities offering is all about.
That's from a recent interview on the Thinking Crypto channel, link below. So an XRP token cannot inherently be a security. It's the sale or offering of something that makes it a sale of a security, subject to SEC regulation. And now that we understand that, let's take a look at what I think Ripple is going to do with this lawsuit. This is going to be very interesting. What kind of tipped me off was looking at the initial pretrial letter to the judge again. I read it again, and I swear sometimes I surprise myself by how poorly I read things. At the conclusion of the letter, when Ripple is wrapping up its case, it says this. Now, pay close attention. Quote, accordingly, Ripple's ongoing sales of XRP cannot be considered a securities offering. It is crucial that this court adjudicate this issue promptly. The SEC's complaint asks this court to bar Ripple permanently from delivering XRP to any persons or otherwise participating in any offering of digital asset securities. The key word here is ongoing. Ongoing sales of securities. Now that's what Ripple is talking about when it later says, quote, Ripple proposed and agreed to a rapid discovery schedule, in this case, to enable Ripple to file a motion for summary judgment as soon as possible, close quote. Now, as you may know, summary judgment is a request that a judge make a determination of a case as a matter of law. A request for summary judgment has to be addressed to an identifiable part of the complaint or affirmative defense. And look at something else that I missed the first time around. Ripple's affirmative defense number 3. Quote, the relief requested by the SEC in the complaint is inappropriate in whole or part because the complaint fails to allege a reasonable likelihood of future violations by Ripple, close quote. Future violations, future sales. So there it is. Ripple is addressing current and future sales of its escrowed XRP when it is asking for a fast determination by the judge, and then added in affirmative defense number 3, talking about any future sales, because Ripple is going to move for summary judgment first as to its current and future XRP sales only, and not the past sales, and they want to do it quickly. But wait, can they do that? Can they only move for summary judgment on their one affirmative defense, you might be asking? And for an answer to that, we turn to the federal rules of civil procedure. Quote, a party may move for summary judgment identifying each claim or defense, or the part of each claim or defense on which summary judgment is sought, close quote. And when can they file it? Quote, a party may file a motion for summary judgment at any time until 30 days after the close of all discovery, close quote, which for the Ripple case means they can file it anytime they want from now up until sometime in September after discovery is closed. I mean, they could file it tomorrow if they want. So my spidey sense is tingling, and it won't happen for a while still, but Ripple is going to file for partial summary judgment as to the current and future offerings of XRP. And why is that so important for you? Because the strength of Ripple's case is exponentially greater in summer 2021 than it was back in, say, 2014 or 2015. And by moving for partial summary judgment on its third affirmative defense and winning, you all get the clarity you're looking for moving forward.
That's the important part. You get the clarity that you're looking for moving forward. Now, it wouldn't be fair for me to leave this without addressing not the elephant in the room, but the unicorn in the room. Part of the reason I like this guy's personality is because he does these kind of things to tweak his audience, and that is smart. I like it. You should go give him a subscribe. Legal Briefs. Give him a subscribe here on YouTube. The guy's doing a great job. Okay, now let's move to Gary Gensler, who was Goldman Sachs, by the way. That'll come up later in this video. Breaking, the Senate Banking Committee has voted to confirm Gary Gensler as the next SEC chairman. And I loved this lady during the hearing. Listen to what she says.
The primary reason I voted in favor of Mr. Gensler's nomination is his commitment to financial innovation. Innovators in the digital asset, blockchain, and fintech space have only been able to have a one-way conversation with the SEC in the last few years, and that must change. To be competitive with China and Europe, the United States has to get serious about responsible integration of technology into our capital markets. This is a national security issue as much as a financial one, and one that will define our country's future prosperity. Responsible financial innovation must be a bipartisan issue. I am optimistic that Mr. Gensler will make this a priority, and I will watch the SEC very closely and will not hesitate to engage with the SEC to help our country take its next steps forward. Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I yield.
Now remember, that woman right there, I believe, is Cynthia Loomis, who's the one of the Congress people from Wyoming, who Brad Garlinghouse copied in a tweet. And don't you think for a minute that that woman right there did not have a conversation with Gary Gensler off the record about what his intentions are? I'll bet you she did. I can't prove it, but I'm guessing. Now, Real XRP Boy had given me this video, or I saw this video out there. Watch this. He says, "Don't fudge this up, Gary."
Should the SEC and CFTC tailor rules? I am one that believes if you can achieve those big public policy goals on page number 2 or 3, that yes, new technologies often do mean tailoring rules and changing things. The internet came along in the 1990s. Things were tailored. Sometimes it worked. I think regulation ATS, alternative trading systems for the securities field, it's got some issues. I'm not saying it's perfect, but that was an adaptation that at the time made sense. I think, in a sense, in the derivatives place, in swaps, we went to different place in the 1990s, went to Congress when there were new trading platforms, and they were exempted. It was called the Enron loophole. Swaps were exempted more broadly, and I think it contributed in part to the crisis later. And so those...
Okay, that's the part I wanted you to hear, okay? So I've said for a long time on this channel, I believe digital assets were hatched out of the financial crisis because they were the solution, okay? And it's not there are no coincidences. Write all this down, folks. There are no coincidences that all of a sudden Gary Gensler, who ran the CFTC, which is derivatives, okay? Derivatives caused the financial crisis. This guy was one of the people that was involved in trying to solve the crisis, or not solve, but looking at the issues from the crisis and helping to work on that stuff after the financial crisis. This is not a coincidence. It's not a I'll show you some more things, but first I wanted to hit this before I go. This is a former SEC Commissioner, Paul Atkins.
The SEC obviously worked long and hard on that complaint that they filed in court. It's a well-drafted complaint. I think there are problems with it, fallacies in their argument. But ultimately, the courts will decide this. And I guess it's possible that an incoming chairman, looks like it'll be Gary Gensler, I guess he could withdraw the lawsuit, which has happened at some other agencies with the incoming administration with respect to other issues and other lawsuits. I don't know that that's likely to happen, but that's a possibility. But if not, the courts will adjudicate this issue. And ultimately, it may well go to the Supreme Court.
SEC could withdraw. I don't see that happening, but he said it's a possibility. Now, back to this derivatives thing. There's a reason that I've always been so focused on this. This is one of those people that disappeared off social media, but they were saying all these things as if they knew. This one right here is the one I have stayed focused on because it makes sense. Knowing for myself, knowing what the financial crisis was, and knowing that the core of the problem was the derivatives market, and knowing that at the time, back then, Gary Gensler was the guy at the CFTC. He was the man in charge I think in the aftermath, at least maybe during the thing. I can't remember. We'll see here shortly. But cross-border payments was only a test. The $100 trillion derivatives market, in other words, this is there's been a few people come into social media over the last 2 or 3 years that says with Ripple it was never about cross-border payments, it was about derivatives. Now, this is Gary Gensler. This is in his Wikipedia page. Gary Gensler was sworn in on May 26, 2019, pledging to work to urgently close gaps in our laws to bring much-needed transparency and regulation to over-the-counter derivatives market to lower risk, strengthen the market integrity, and protect investors. Gensler was described as one of the leading reformers after the financial crisis. Here is Gensler, CFTC, on regulating the OTC derivatives markets.
To lower risk to the public and to increase transparency. Transparency both lowers risk, but it also leads to greater market efficiency.
Okay, so again, remember, we're talking about derivatives. It was what the financial crisis was all about, was systemic risk. Listen to this, Brianna Madigan, Ripple.
Last key attribute of a healthy liquid market is really resilience, and that is getting at the ability for a market to recover from a significant systemic event. So if there was some sort of a market shock, the ability for order books to get back to normality and tighten back to similar prices to where they were prior to that event relatively quickly.
Okay, and just by pure coincidence, she, as well as Gary Gensler, both came from Goldman Sachs, but that's a coincidence. Now, yesterday, and many of you out there, oh, well, that's just a coincidence. Alice and Bob, you know, everybody talks about that in crypto, but I think everybody talks about that in crypto because of Ripple. Okay, and I believe Gary Gensler has known about Ripple and has worked behind the scenes and studied everything Ripple's doing for a reason. That's what I believe. Now, this is from yesterday because, by pure coincidence, of course, the Diem project, which is Facebook, what was Facebook's Libra, and the guy David Marcus that is running the Diem project, which was Facebook's Libra, and they changed the name because they had that congressional hearing and everybody was all mad, and so what do? You change the name. Well, David Marcus, he's also the same, just happens to be the same guy that's running the Diem project for Facebook, is the same guy that back in 2013 was running PayPal when they were talking about creating PayPal galactic currency. Okay, now, but back to this, Alice and Bob. After I did this, I had not seen this video that Heoseko Carmona sent to me. I had not seen this, but I thought it was kind of interesting because he directed me right to a certain point. This is David Schwartz when he's talking to Matt Hamilton on the channel. I had mentioned the other day they were going to start this channel on Twitch, Twitch. So listen to what David Schwartz says.
For the first show, something a little more, inclusive for everyone, whether they have a technical background or are familiar with, all the ins and outs of blockchain or not. I do want to share one amusing thought that came to me though during the demo. It was funny talking about actually using real accounts and real money in a demo so that someone could actually get paid. Well, we used to have an employee at Ripple named Bob Way. And a lot of you might have heard of him. And you also might know that a common thing to do in a demo is to have Alice send money to Bob.
Right.
So Bob would always be sure to create an account in every payment system that we ever wanted to demo. So like if we were demoing ODL to Mexico, he would have an account on the place in Mexico. And so if we were showing a demo delivering real pesos being delivered to Bob, it was Bob Way who was getting them. And I wonder if he ever paid the appropriate.
Okay, all coincidence, right? Well, this is Gary Gensler. Class 6, this is one of his classes at MIT. Watch this.
He existed basically to send instructions on payments around to another bank. But what's it look like today? Well, first...
What do you know? There's Alice and Bob again. So he's doing this whole course, and in his example, he's using Alice and Bob. But he's got a source down here, a central bank cryptocurrency. An interesting idea, but maybe not for the reason we think. Richard Gendel Brown. I'm not positive, but I swear that name sounds like somebody we might know. I'm not sure if it's the same guy. Well, actually, let's go look. I'm the Chief Technology Officer at R3. It is the same guy. I don't know if you remember the video clip. Richard Brown is the same guy that says he cannot talk about Ripple. He can talk about anything else, but he can't talk about Ripple. But the source that Gary Gensler is using to teach his class was this article from Richard Gendel Brown, the CTO of R3. And don't forget, SBI Holdings, which owns 10.5% of Ripple, also is the largest outside holder of R3 and the largest outside holder of Ripple. But his article that Gary Gensler just used as an example, a central bank, cryptocurrency, an interesting idea, but maybe not for the reason we think. And it's all about Fed coin and all this. And as you go down, here's Alice and Bob again. Okay, this is the actual graphic that Gary Gensler was using. And then if you go down underneath this graphic, it says systems like Ripple solve this problem by explicitly modeling the idea of an asset and its issuer. 50 GBP Barclays is different to 50 GBP HSBC, and Ripple is built on that insight. So you could certainly configure the contract to trust some issuers but not others. And then they've got a link right here that says Ripple. So I clicked on that. This is also by Richard Gendel Brown, CTO of R3, the one who cannot talk about Ripple. April 19th, 2014. Ripple is hard to understand, but it's worth making the effort. There's a deep insight at its core. And as you go down, there he is as a younger man. And then as you keep going down, all of a sudden you see a payment system being described, and you see Richard, and then here's Bob. Bob pops up again. We've got Bob. Alice is not in the picture, but of course Richard and Bob. Folks, where there's smoke, there's fire, and there is smoke. I've been watching smoke coming out of Ripple, R3, and anything connected to them for the last 3 or 4 years. And let me tell you what, there are no coincidences. This stuff, as silly as it might seem, Alice and Bob, there's a reason that all of these people keep referencing Allison and Bob. I'm not saying that I know any of this for a fact, but I'm just saying there's a lot of smoke there, and there's a lot of fire too. You just don't know exactly, you can't put your finger exactly on it, but one day our fingers will be firmly on it and we will know all the answers to these questions. I'm convinced. XRP Bart, Monica Long loves seeing companies like GateHub and XRPL as the go-to blockchain for building new products like Wallet Protect. The scalability and speed of the XRPL is a game changer for our company developers and the XRP community. Also, we've got this from XRP Bart. Israeli pension giant, whatever you say there, whatever the name of that is, invested $100 million in GBTC in the second half of last year when Bitcoin was trading at around $21,000 to local, so they over doubled their money. Now, this was interesting. We're excited to share that Ted Mathis, chairman of CEO of New York Life, has been appointed to the NYDIG board of directors. His knowledge and experience will help strengthen our board significantly as we expand institutional access to Bitcoin. What's interesting here is NYDIG. Who is that? Well, this is their website. They have Ben Lawsky as part of their leadership team. He's the head of regulatory affairs. He was one of the board members or advisors to Ripple. And what else is interesting about this is you might remember back in September of 2020, Chris Larson tweeted this out. As some of you may have noticed, I moved an XRP wallet to NYDIG. I've known the founders for a while and am impressed by their security and top-notch institutional standards. This is truly Custody 2.0. Check them out. So, Chris Larson apparently likes NYDIG. Finally, I wanted to show you this. Our page will aim to promote NFTs that are minted on Flare Networks once it launches in Q2 of 2021. These guys are going to do NFTs on the Flare Network, and that's exciting. I'm the digital asset investor. I'm not an investment advisor. This is for entertainment purposes only. Please subscribe, hit the like button, and tell your friends and family about Alice